Stop Electing the Fifth Column. Field Report 3 by Johnny Fiddick.
This work can contain frank historical discussion of warfare, violence, and adult themes. Viewer discretion advised.
Fifth columnist. One of your own who hates you and your culture. Opposite of compatriot. Foreign adversary. Of a foreign country or culture who hates you and your culture. Opposite of foreign partner who respects you and can work with you. To identify fifth columnists. The West and Christianity? Evil. Other cultures and religions? Good. Our sexism? Toxic. Their sexism? Culture. Crusades, aggression, jihads, peaceful. Our borders racist, their borders sovereign. Western achievements, theft. Others' achievements, innovation. Whiteness, original sin. Slavery, uniquely Western, ignore we abolished it. Their crimes, our fault. Colonialism, patriarchy, white privilege. Words, violence, offence, worse than real crime. Need hate speech laws. No us and them, but can endlessly criticise us, must never criticise them. Despises own culture, calls own people deplorable, racist, fascist. Defends foreign adversaries, open borders, mass third world immigration.
These illustrate a broader pattern of selective and self-defeating standards that extend well beyond these examples. Of course, not all such statements always mean someone is against the West, such as with one-offs, or believing several strongly while not particularly advancing the other ones. Like a psychopathy test, it's more about frequently ticking a whole lot of them. Some people argue most of them a lot. It is these people who are unwittingly or deliberately against the West. Stop voting for them.
After constant media indoctrination, views like these are now normalised, so pointing out the contradictions is easily seen as far right, especially to the left, who view everything they disagree with as something phobic, sexist, racist, bigoted or fascist. And we must also overcome our own conditioning and stop instinctively recoiling from pro-West language and arguments. But these are contradictory dichotomies that would be viewed as perfectly normal if reversed in many other civilizations, especially those opposing the West.
The left, given their authoritarian mindset, having defected from old-school liberalism decades ago, has become increasingly preoccupied with controlling language. No doubt I could create an interesting piece listing 100 prominent examples, from person-first terminology and preferred pronouns to pregnant people, undocumented migrants, climate emergency, and even the redefinition of words such as woman and sex.
This is how the left tries to control the narrative. Ignore it. Use the words you mean. You will be called racist. They've given these labels to millions of us, so no one who matters cares if you've been called racist too. I call this racist, from racist and sus, as in suspicious, because suspiciously, virtually any objection to mass illegal immigration from the third world, another term they dislike and I use deliberately, is branded as such. So too is concern about the future of the West, former Christendom, and whether by extending the protections, freedoms and assumptions of our own civilization to everyone indiscriminately, we are giving a long-standing civilizational rival, Islam, the very tools by which to transform us, while convincing us to make it hate speech to criticize the process, and while expecting us to pay for it and celebrate it, and thank them for doing it.
The left expects the right to let them solve mass immigration and radical Islam in the West, like waiting for crime to fall under their soft-on-crime policies. They fail to give agency to foreign or Muslim perpetrators, blaming whiteness instead. In my view, the right is generally more effective on crime. Compare major Democrat versus Republican cities in the USA. Fighting crime requires a certain unpleasantness, yet the left often treats expectations of good behavior from foreigners and Muslims as racism. The right sees the opposite. Refusing to hold them to the same standards is the real prejudice. In the UK grooming gang scandals, authorities, media and officials prioritise avoiding racism accusations or offending minority communities over protecting children. If another country became a safe haven for ethnic European child abusers, with police scared to act and officials more worried about offending the minority, abusers would flock there, criminals follow incentives. That's the absurdity. The left unconsciously assumes Pakistanis are just culturally abusive. The right assumes they are not. The left assumes Muslims just have to be radical Musliming, while calling this moderate, again, controlling the narrative. At the same time, we erode free speech and therefore genuine Western democracy, can't vote on an issue if one side is suppressed, to ensure Muslims will not be offended by something, and despite being so moderate, do more terrorism. My work will be called an attack, but the central argument is the opposite of racist. Hit Pakistani child abusers exactly as hard as our own, and the grooming gangs disappear. deport bad immigrants for lower-level offences like harassing girls, and you soon select for good immigrants. When I was in Moscow, they reportedly had 1 million workers from impoverished neighbouring republics, yet there were no riots and little visible disorder. Work sent me all over Russia, and I was safe. Likewise, deport Muslims who repeatedly demand speech restrictions, attack the host culture, or push incompatible laws. You would deport very few. The West needs clear, enforced rules in our own interest. Once standards are firm, enforcement drops sharply. Strength produces good behaviour. Weakness attracts bad behaviour.
Fifth, columnists, aka sellouts, and in the worst case, traitors, aim to turn the West, unintentionally if not deliberately, into the third world, promising no more inequality, no more Western hegemony, and by appearances no more ethnic Europeans. Either they're right and the West becomes a utopia, thanks to diversity being our strength, and all the advantages of millions of the third world arriving, and ask yourself how this seems to be going so far, or it's us who are wrong, and it's our fault it didn't work because we were racist. The left ignores and explains away the many cases of Muslim grooming gangs, including cases where authorities failed to act for fear of being called racist. We assign agency to third world migrants, but when they commit disproportionate crime, as databases repeatedly show, responsibility shifts back to colonialism or to ethnic Europeans for not being good enough. The left condemns concern over Islamist terrorism, which is unbelievably high, while ignoring the billions spent on counter-terrorism that ensures it isn't still far higher. What a waste of our taxes when we are supposed to believe we are all so much better off. These are legitimate concerns, yet raise them and you're called racist or Islamophobic. But so what? That's just speech. It's our fault for being so bothered by being called racist, and for electing leaders who police criticism rather than fix problems.
Hey, just a quick interlude to say, if you feel we're vibing, smash like, subscribe, and hit alerts.
I advocate a soft radicalism to mitigate the risk of hard radicalism, the decisive change to reverse the societal deterioration we've seen for decades under a failing status quo, while avoiding the terrible risks of hard radicalism such as civil war or whatever eventual backlash may be coming. And we see it brewing more and more. Soft radicalism means bringing society back into balance with the minimal necessary adjustments that stay true as possible to the core Western values, like democracy and free speech, doing as little harm as possible instead of the ineffective conventional approaches that have led to more decay. But it means bringing them in very assertively. Key examples include defending free speech by denying only the free speech of advocating the removal of free speech itself. One minimal contradiction with the higher purpose of preserving free speech overall, and ensuring the West wins at tolerating itself by refusing to tolerate cultures and religions to our own detriment, applying a self-protection clause of intolerance towards intolerance so that reciprocity prevails rather than constant erosion of our rights and norms. Something like religious freedom and religious tolerance, but not to the foreign medieval oppressive theocracy that has repeatedly shown that once in force, it does away with religious freedom and religious tolerance. This is expanded on in my Substack article linked in the description. Islamic blasphemy-style speech restrictions shouldn't even be up for debate in the West, yet they keep arising. Any Muslim who asks for speech restrictions because they might be offended, whether or not they can feel like doing or supporting violence or terrorism because of it, or asks for Sharia law to be introduced into any Western country, etc., should immediately be deported to their country or the country of their DNA. They say which, or we decide which, whether that means revoking citizenship or otherwise.
I have acknowledged this involves some limits on speech, but they differ in important ways. It's protecting free speech from those who seek to undermine it, and defending our open society from erosion by ideologies that don't reciprocate these freedoms. This isn't about conceding anything. It's about choosing to preserve what makes the West successful. It's one law that serves to contradict itself, which to the West does less harm than, and helps overturn, the countless new laws to appease foreign sensibilities around hate speech, what we are allowed to say, and what we can and cannot tweet. It's not them winning, it is us winning. We can give ourselves permission to win sometimes.
Ban visas and mass immigration from the third world. If it truly makes us better, why did Anglophone and European nations reach the apex of civilization without it, while those countries have not? Opponents cry racism and claim the West stole everything, yet even if partially true, why were they so easily conquered if they were so amazing and had so much to steal? Nearly every civilization has been invaded and plundered throughout history. The successful ones recovered through hard work and sacrifice, not endless blame and reparation centuries later. Someone named Anne-Marie said sarcastically when I spoke of this, "Oh no, is the UK being colonised?" I responded, perhaps, but not in the good sense like the British were doing, such as eradicating slavery in New Zealand and across the Arab, Moroccan and Ottoman Turkish slave trading forts of North Africa, Anatolia and the slave coast of West Africa, or ensuring Māori would stop massacring other Māori or Moriori, or banning widow burning, i.e. sati, in India, after taking India from another foreign empire, and all the while setting these people up with railways, roads, hospitals, medicine, schools and so on. No, it is the other sort of colonialisation now, such as what Muslims do. Please take a look at some Muslim countries. Pick just about any, see how they're doing. They were always empire building and colonising too, and are back to their old ways. Take 40,000 Muslims who travelled to join 100,000 ISIS in the Middle East only recently, and how quickly they brought slavery back. Ban face coverings like the burqa for security and integration reasons. Ban Sharia law, ban mosques funded by other countries or our taxes. Ban loudspeaker calls to prayer that disrupt communities. Don't just ask nicely or maybe issue small fines. Deport those who flaunt these bans in the same way just covered. And mass illegal immigration must always be met with mass deportations. The goal is to push back against efforts to restrict criticism of any ideology, including calls for blasphemy-style laws or special protections from offence. That pretend word, Islamophobia, the phobia of fearing a religion that more than most, and this is to put it extremely mildly with emphasis on extreme, challenges free speech, women's rights, the treatment of minorities like Jews, atheists and apostates, and LGBTQ, and Western values in general. We should repeal overly broad hate speech laws already in place or proposed that punish people for pointing out that Islam represents these same beliefs that any number of videos and recordings show their own religious leaders preaching furiously. And as I was writing this, I found John Cleese on the 12th of June 2026 saying, "Malik, we all see Muslim scholars and clerics telling us all that Islam will take over the UK, that infidels will be killed, that wives will be beaten, that child marriage is desirable, and that female genital mutilation will be allowed. All of this is quite contrary to British tradition. Why do you pretend this is not going on? We are not all complete fools." End quote. And those particular religious leaders, when they are in the West, are blatant foreign adversaries and should be immediately deported along with their direct family and any other foreign adversaries who decide to protest. This view isn't inherently against all Muslims. The West can include Muslims who genuinely embrace Western values and prefer living here over their countries of origin. I lived in Russia for 8 years and saw almost none of these problems. There had been times that the Islamic groups in regions had risen up, which Moscow suppressed mercilessly. There's a lesson. But generally, the impression I got is that everyone in Russia, Muslims and otherwise, place Russia and Russian values absolutely above religious ones. I saw and knew many Muslims living in Russia very peacefully. The distinctions between those who integrate as partners, respecting our laws, freedoms and culture, versus those who act as ideological opponents by demanding special rules, wearing symbols of separatism like burqas and hijabs, and pushing for blasphemy or Sharia laws. The latter already have many countries aligned with those views. True partners, including ex-Muslims or moderate voices, speak out against Islamic extremism and attacks rather than denouncing the West and expecting us to apologise after every terror attack.
It's time for the West to get serious about preserving its own way of life. No interpretation of a civilization's values need lead it to its own downfall. Support leaders with the courage to protect the West. Avoid supporting those who defend incompatible demands, and do not vote for those who clearly hate our nations, as they function as an internal opposition, the fifth column, weakening us from within. We don't need to endlessly grant more rights and privileges to a historical rival of over 1,000 years than are ever extended to us in the Islamic world.
The West was once Christendom. Today it is largely secular. Many of us with Judeo-Christian heritage are agnostics or atheists. So why should an oppressive medieval theocratic religion be here to subjugate us? This is their long game. Their messages to us are always, no we're not. Their messages to each other always, yes we are. If people come to the West, The direction of travel should be away from theocracy, not back towards it. We should be advancing Western values, not importing medieval ones. We should select our foreign partners as chosen by our compatriots, not our fifth columnists, while rejecting and ejecting foreign adversaries. Learn how to identify clear compatriots and, above all other priorities, as solutions to other issues will trickle down, place your votes accordingly. That would be the end.
If this video lit a fire under you, please throw me some support on Ko-fi or join the Knights on Patreon. Even a small amount per month keeps the Berserker rants coming. Links right under the video. My Spotify, X and Substack are also there. What's your opinion? Let me know, but please keep it respectful. Quick assertion on free speech. As a New Zealand citizen, Article 3 of the Treaty of Waitangi and Section 14 of the Bill of Rights Act give me the same free speech rights as every Maori, Pacifica, Asian and NZ European citizen, and every other citizen too. Criticising co-governance, race-based policy or activist overreach is protected political speech. Nothing here attacks any person or group because of their race or incites hatred. I'm calling out specific policies and ideologies that I believe harm society, with the sole aim of restoring genuine equality for all. Full legal statement in the description.